Fear is one of the most natural human feelings that we feel. It has so much power in it. It can paralyze us. It can prevent us from doing the things that God is calling us to do. It can lower our confidence in ourselves, and it just restricts us from really like chasing freedom, basically. Chasing like peace and just personal growth as well. The thing is though, is that the Bible doesn't tell us that fear is necessarily bad. It definitely tells us that we don't have to face it alone, but we should feel it, we should acknowledge it, and we should still move forward with God. We should definitely not let it be a barrier or a restriction. We should do the things and do them scared, yet still obviously rely on God. What we know about fear is that it's a biological response to protect us, to heighten our senses, to give us adrenaline, that sort of thing, in like really stressful situations, or just like kind of like flight or fight. It's fear is what drives us to do things as well, and it can be a motivator if you use it right. Sometimes the very thing that we're afraid of is the one thing that will actually help us grow the most. It will help us reach where we want to be the most. It all just takes stepping through fear. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 says, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Fear itself is a gift. It reminds us of what actually matters in our life. It motivates us to push forward instead of staying stagnant, and it reminds us of life's stakes as well. It's a gift. It pushes us. It's what drives us. The reason why we can feel fear and why we can still act, why we can still push forward through that fear, is because of what God does. And what He does is that He turns that fear, He turns it into courage. Isaiah 41:10. "Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness." God doesn't want to remove the reality of fear. Instead, He wants to uphold us through it. When we feel our chest tighten, when we feel like our knees start shaking and everything, God is sharing the burden with us. God is sharing the anxiety and the stress and the fear with us. That sort of fear, it becomes a signal then. A signal, that we're about to do something meaningful, that we're about to have a breakthrough through a door that, we couldn't open without His strength. It's not impossible for fear and faith to coexist, but the courage is a choice. God gives you opportunities to be courageous, to try and form that fear into courage, but it's up to you to make the choice of accepting it that way. Being scared does not mean that you're unfaithful or you're weak. Even some of God's heroes, God's greatest heroes in the Old Testament, were so afraid to do the things that God planned for them to do. For example, Moses, he was trembling to speak with the Pharaoh, and yet he still did it. You can still do these things. You can still feel the fear, and just know that God is greater than any fear that you have ever felt. Deuteronomy 31:6. "Be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, He it is that doth go with thee, and He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee." Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward alongside the fear. It's trusting that God's power is way greater than our fear, and it's choosing that fear is not going to be the dictator of your actions, of your plans in life. Fear signals where we have a chance to grow. It's kind of like a spotlight that directs where your best route is in life, what the scariest option is, and what's the option that you will grow the most from. And what God does is that He guides us towards that. I see the life that God gave me as a gift. And like anyone, when someone gives you a gift, you want to kind of like make the most of it. You want to use it. You want to use it well. You want to make the most of it. And I think a really good way that we can, it's not the only way, but a really good way that we can make use of this gift of life that he's given us is through doing these experiences through fear. Without fear, we may feel like we stay safe, we're comfortable and we're stagnant and we're just, we've nothing to fear. It's just like do the least kind of. It's fear that pushes us to do challenges in life. It's fear that pushes us to have relationships with people. It's fear that gives us opportunities that we take, that we risk. I feel like doing all of that is definitely a way to make the most out of life, to gain these experiences, to gain this self-building, this improvement of stepping through your fear, using it as a tool and seeing it as kind of like this fear that I'm feeling is a gift from God and he will guide me through it. I just need to feel what I feel this fear, be scared, do these things scared, and I will grow. Fear often points to what we kind of value the most or what we care about in life. It could be success, love, calling, purpose in life. And it's not something that we should be ashamed of. It's what directs us. When we do it scared, we're recognizing our own humanity and our faith. Like acknowledging our limits while trusting in God's limitless power. I have felt fear multiple times in my life. Spreading my faith, it's a big thing to be scared of. You could face so much backlash, so much hate, you could lose friends, you could sort of like drift away as well. The thing is that the thing that you fear the most will probably happen. But when it does happen, you realize you relying on God and the fear that you had, the outcomes, you realize how much stronger you are with God than without Him. Because if you just tried to do these things by yourself and what you fear actually happens, you'll deal with it a lot worse than if you kind of did it while giving it to God. Kind of. That's my experience anyway. Because I've experienced what it's like to face my fears and do things through fear, with and without God. The key to doing this is to trust in God. Is to fully surrender that your life is in His hands. He already has a plan for you. It's just about you relying on Him, you trusting Him. And He will direct you in the way that He needs to use you. The best way to do this, to work through your fear and to fully surrender it to God, I've found is talk to Him, fully let out all of your fears to Him, tell Him what's worrying you and surrender it to Him. And at the end of the day, it's all just about building your relationship with God. It's all just about spending time with God. Because once you build your relationship with Him, you'll find that that's actually how He strengthens you. It's a mutual connection. And through that, you are able to work with your fear, to coexist with your fear, and to turn it into courage. So, here's the challenge. Do it scared. Step forward, step closer to God, Leave in His hands and let Him control what you can't control alone. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's just faith in action. Let your fear meet God's presence. Let it fuel you, and just watch what He can do through you.